In Opus, a young journalist is invited to a reclusive pop star's compound as part of a press event for the singer's first album in decades, and stuff gets weird. The film aims for unsettling and darkly funny in equal measures, and it certainly has a strong cast. Let's see just how dazzled we get. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello, good day to you.
This is a horror movie podcast, and today we are talking about a film that came out earlier this year called Opus, which is an A24 horror movie about I don't think it's a spoiler to say it's a cult. It looks like a cult. It smells like a cult. They act like a cult. But yeah, this is kind of a weird premise where you've got this like old pop star who's super reclusive, but he's finally doing a new album, and he invites a bunch of various journalists and like media people out for like a weekend to his like compound where he's going to like reveal the songs to them and do a variety of different things, different fancy lunches and stuff like that. That's what the setup is, but there is like a sinister, like something's going on here undertone. So that's the movie we're going to be talking about, Opus. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please do hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch, and you can get bonus content and help support everything over at Patreon or becoming a YouTube member, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. Also, Tim, for the first time, is recording in his new place, which... doesn't really matter that much. However, the room he's currently in is completely empty and therefore is very echoey. So I'm just putting out a little warning that he's going to sound a little like bottom of a submarine today. But
yeah, definitely there's a lot of work to do still. So yeah, might look a little weird, sound a little weird, but hopefully it's not too long until we got everything unpacked and up and running. But yeah, apologize.
I'll just ask one simple question. Are you planning on having like bookshelves in there with books on them?
Yeah, we have so many books that pretty much every room is going to have at least one a bookshelf. So
the reason why I'm asking that is because like shelves of books and stuff like that tend to like very naturally absorb noise. So yeah, it's
yeah. Yeah, I have so many like different like bookshelves I need to put together and stuff I need to put away that it's I was probably gonna put one anyway, but that's good to know that we can get that sorted out.
Yeah, it's partly the way I'm not getting rid of my Blu-rays. All my shelves of Blu-rays are kind of acting as a natural sound absorption. Yeah, I have to get the sound foam up in the walls and all that to sound half decent. I'm sure it would sound a little better if I went to that effort, but we're here. Living once, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Opus. So yes, welcome to the show, everyone. Tim, I'd seen a trailer for this because this came out, I think, in about March, so somewhere around then. And I think I'd seen a trailer and thought, oh, that looks a bit weird and quirky, but maybe it'll be good because A24 and there's some strong actors in there as well. Did you have much expectations? Had you seen the trailer?
Well, I guess beforehand I would have said I was fairly interested in it. I'm starting to get a little, sick of pop star horror movies, but,
well, hold on. Time out. List the recent ones. I can think of Trap. But what else are we talking about?
Smile 2.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, fair.
It's that's not like a lot, but if we're still if it keeps up,
Okay. Fair enough.
But this one had the premise is a lot different than those movies. So it had an intriguing premise, and like you said, the cast is fairly good. It's all people I like to see. So I guess beforehand I was fairly intrigued by it. I must have seen a trailer at some point, but I think I'd pretty much forgotten it. So that would have been like before the movie came out. If you're talking about my expectations before like today when I watched it, they were severely lowered. And it's not like I had like read a bunch of reviews or anything before going into it, but it was just one of those movies where like nobody talked about it. Like, yeah, granted, it's, you know, been a couple of months and everything, but still, you know, like even when it came out, I don't think I had heard many people going to see it. Like, if I did hear anything about it, it was probably like either it was just fine or it was like kind of bad, you know. I definitely haven't seen anyone that was like over the moon for it. So yeah, going in, my expectations were fairly muted.
Yeah, I didn't really know what the reception to it was. I mean, I didn't really think about the fact that I hadn't really heard anyone talking about it, despite the fact that it had some names in it and it was an A24, you know, horror movie. I felt like people should have been talking about it a bit more. I didn't really think about it. It's just as I sat down to watch it, right, and you know, on the movie page, you know, they showed the Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's like 44%, and I was like, oh, I assumed this would at least be, you know, in the 60s or something. It caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that. So just kind of went in with like, well, hopefully I'll feel against the curve. Maybe I'll appreciate some stuff here that the general critics don't like. So yeah, with all that said, I guess we'll get into the opinion. We'll talk about the cast and stuff after we've done some basic impressions. Tim, what did you think of Opus?
I wasn't super into it. It's like there's nothing offensively bad about it. Like, you know, it didn't make me angry or want to pull out my hair or like, you know, shut it off. But
don't throw the fact that you can pull out your hair in my face, Tim. Right? I don't need this like subtle racism.
Fair enough. But I mean, if anything, and I feel like, you know, was Wolfman the last movie we did?
Your memory's terrible. Yes, that's the last movie we did. Well, it's not the last one that went out. I don't think. I think okay. Weapons went out last week, which we saw and we loved. Maybe hated. We don't know because we're recording this before, but that went out last week, presumably.
Okay. Well, yeah. But I mean, I definitely wouldn't say this is nearly as bad as Wolfman, but I mean, this is another movie that unfortunately I did just find to be very dull, and it's always like, again, you know, it's always kind of annoying when the worst thing about a movie is that it's like kind of boring because it's just like, you know, you don't have like any passion to be like, oh, like this sucks so much or oh, it's so great. But I mean, you know, the cast is fine. I do kind of have a problem with like it's hard when they're doing movies about like a fake musician or something, because like, you know, part of it has to be like when it's like a serious movie or a horror movie or something, because, you know, part of it has to be like, oh my god, like this musician is so great and like people are like, you know, falling at their feet and stuff. And like I had so much trouble believing like John Malkovich was like you know, this like sexy pop star that people just loved, and whenever they played his music I was like, oh, this is the thing that like people are going crazy for. Like, I don't know, it's it was hard for me to buy into the movie just like on that basic premise. And I don't know, there's so much stuff that it just felt like it was up its own ass. Like like I kind of hated the beginning when it's just like, you know, they're playing the music and they're just doing like these like, you know, black like, you know, it's just like the background is all black except for just focus on one person just dancing to the music, and they're just like so into it in slow-mo.
Oh, the opening titles, you mean? Yeah.
And I was just like, this is so stupid. And I mean, it is kind of funny just, I don't know, thinking of like, when you think of the, like, there are like pop stars that people seem to worship, like they could probably start a cult if they wanted to, but I think it's like people like Taylor Swift or something. Like I can't imagine someone like John Malkovich being like that level today. All
right, but let me ask you quite to play devil's advocate. Yeah. Right, you said you heard the music and you said this is what everyone's raving about in this movie. When you hear a Taylor Swift song, isn't your reaction also, oh, this is what all the Swifties are all like crazy about? Like, surely your reaction is probably similar, no?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think I can tell if something like sounds a little bit better. Like, it's not my style of music, but I don't know. Sometimes I can be like, oh, I can see why someone would like this or whatnot. Or sometimes I'd be like, oh, like this it kind of sounds stupid. Like, I don't know. I'm, you know, I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I don't have anything against her. But I don't know if I hear her song randomly, it sounds better to me than like, I don't know, Katy Perry or something. Which I mean, I don't want to, start a feud or anything. But I don't know. There seems to be some musicians that I'm just like, oh, like I can kind of see why people are into this.
I think I can name more Katy Perry songs than I can Taylor Swift songs, because I can't name any Taylor Swift songs. but that might just be because Katy Perry came like a decade. Well, I don't know if it was a decade earlier, but certainly I think I know stuff. I know more music from when I was like 20 than I do now.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of there used to be like stuff like would be kind of inescapable because you would listen to the radio or they played on TV or on commercials or whatnot, and then now we just like skip commercials and no one listens to like the radio anymore, or like watches music videos and stuff. So it is fairly easy to kind of avoid this stuff versus a time when it was just like this ever present pop culture.
Anyway, so my feelings on the movie is. Like, I mean, it's middling, is what I would say. I think it's a slightly more interesting middling, because like you said, sometimes when a movie's middling and it's just kind of meh, you kind of come out going, well, I have nothing to say about this. I think there's actually interesting things about this one, and I think it's trying to like explore certain ideas. I think there's the odd little moment that's well directed, or I think the cast are, some of them are pretty good and stand out, but it just frustratingly never comes together in a way where it feels like it's becoming cohesive. And I think probably the most damning thing I can say about it is that obviously it's a sort of mystery unraveling movie where it's like, hey, we're at this compound for the weekend, everything's nice, but maybe there's something sinister. There's a hint there, a hint here, characters are starting to become aware of things. The more they revealed about what was going on or showed more about the true intentions of this place, like, the worse the movie got. It was like every time they showed something, it was getting less and less interesting because it wasn't actually like the biggest asset they had is that John Malkovich was just like chewing the scenery, doing his like auteur, like I'm an artiste and I have all these weird ideas about how I talk and everyone's going to hang on every word I say and I'm so eccentric and weird and so on and so on. There's that. But yeah, I think the lead character, Ariel, played by Ao Edebiri. I'm probably butchering her name. I've never heard someone say it out loud. But she's generally very good. I think she's solid in this. I did not know that Amber Midthunder was in this, and I think she's got a fairly small role, but it's a very strong presence in that small role. She's kind of a silent badass, which works. Also, I laughed in the opening titles because the casting director's last name was Midthunder, and I thought, now it's not a guarantee they're related, but it feels like someone cast their niece or something in the movie. But I think those two stuck out to me the most. And then there's obviously other faces. Juliette Lewis is in there in a role. Tony Hale's in a role. There's a few faces that you'll recognize.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, like, seeing the credits because I was like, oh, yeah, like, obviously, like, knew the main character and, like, I don't think I remember John Malkovich was in it, but then, like, when his name popped up, I was like, oh, yeah, but then, yeah, when I started seeing people like Tony Hale, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I remembered the two leads. I remembered Edebiri and I remembered Malkovich from the trailer. Everyone else was, like, a surprise when their name popped up. I was like, oh, them, oh, and them, oh.
It is funny because I do... Yeah, I think Ao is like a really good actress. Like I liked her in a lot of things, but I do kind of like think of her as being like pretty young. So it was just kind of funny. Like she has this like kind of big writer's job. And it's like, oh, like when am I gonna get my like big break? Like writing or whatever. I'm like, wait, come on, like what are you like in your like mid-20s or something? Like, I think she said she's like 27 at some point, which
27.
I was like, I guess that's a little older than I was expecting her to be, but that just kind of made me laugh. Like,
I think as a man approaching 40, you're just your perception of what young looks like now is skewing a bit more than you'd like to think. That's what I think's happening here.
Well, like like two of my favorite things that she's been in was Bottoms, which wasn't too long ago, but she was a high schooler in that, and then it was just a voice role, but I really liked her in the Ninja Turtles. But
Sure.
she's playing April, who was also like I don't know if it was middle school or high school in that movie, but I was like, oh yeah, I was still thinking of her as like a high school kid. I don't watch the stupid cooking show that everyone loves that I think she's in, so maybe she skews older on that.
She's definitely an adult with a job in that movie, or in that show, I should say.
You are right though. As almost 40, everyone that's like younger than 30 is just like, oh, you're a child to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like, I mean, I know you listened to the episode, but recently when we did Superman Returns on Collector's Cut, and we realised what age Kate Bosworth was playing Lois Lane, and how it was meant to be 5 years since Superman left, and we're like, wait a minute, that means she was like 18 when he left. She already had a job at the Daily Planet. Like, this doesn't make any sense. At least this character's supposed to be the rookie at this, print media job. She's the lackey who's trying to like get attention and try to get her job of actually writing an article, but she's been told to go take notes and things like that, and that sort of thing.
And I'm sure when I was like in my early 20s, I was like, oh, like I should be getting this or that, even though I was like, oh, you idiot, wait 20 years. But yeah.
Again, 27, not early 20s. I just want to point that out. Tim's skewing this a little bit. She's at least over 25, which I do think is a threshold for certain things.
Sure.
On an unspoken sense. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, the cast is, good. It's honestly, you compared it to other, pop star like horrors and thrillers, and I get why you would, because obviously the main character, or the main potential antagonist is a pop star, but to be honest, this was more reminding me of something like The Menu, where a group of characters go to a remote location and there's something planned. This becomes way more of a horror movie than that does, whereas that's always kind of got like a comedic kind of like layer to it. And maybe you could even mix in a little bit of something like Midsummer. Because it's like a kind of call. It's usually daytime for a lot of the scenes, so there's a little bit of that going on. So yeah, Menu meets Midsummer with some other sprinklings of whatever in there. That's how I was feeling.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk like ultimately what his kind of like philosophy by the end of the movie.
His magnum opus.
Yeah, because I honestly I'm not quite sure I like understood it, and it's not like I was like confused or anything, but I think I was just like kind of bored and checked out. So I was like, man, he's just rambling for a while, and I'm not really sure I'm like really like getting exactly what he's dropping down. But I think it is kind of like you're saying, like it starts off a bit more intriguing, a bit more mysterious, but then as it kind of goes on, I did just find myself being less and less interested.
Yeah, and I think it's actually in a weird way try to like cover too many ideas and too many like topics. It feels like it's wanting to say something about celebrity, it's wanting to say something about religion, it's wanting to say something about ambition, it's wanting to say something about art, it's wanting to say something like it's like trying to cover all these different things that by the end, when it was kind of making its final points, and it does take some big swings kind of at the end, I kind of felt just very underwhelmed and not feeling like it really hit me with like a gut punch. It felt undercooked to me at the end, which is there's just, that's probably the worst thing you can feel about an ending is that I see what they were kind of going for there, but like I just don't feel it. So I don't know. We'll probably get to spoilers fairly quick because I don't know how much we can talk about without spoiling things because it's all very mystery or mysterious, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, as far as anything else goes, I'm just trying to think of any spoiler-free things that's worth mentioning. I didn't notice much in other than the fakes. Well, let's say fake songs. All in the songs they'd written for like this pop stars songs. I can't say I really noticed much of the music throughout.
It seemed a bit generic to me, but like not in a generic way that like a like shitty like Hollywood studio horror movie would be. But kind of like a generic A24 kind of way, where I'm just like, oh, okay, like I get what they're doing. They're like, trying to do like, some like creepy, like strings and violin stuff, and it's just like, oh, it just feels like I've kind of seen or like seen and heard like some of the, I don't know, stuff they're doing. I don't know, like there's a scene with clams that I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of like I just kind of feel like I've seen this before, and I don't know. I don't know, just the way it was shot and like the music and stuff is just like, oh, like this feels generic, but not in like that a crappy studio way, but in more in like oh, like I don't know, maybe they were like trying too hard to go for like an A24 vibe or something. I don't know.
I kind of get what you're trying to prod at. Is that I think that clam scene, and I'll give no context for the sake of spoilers, but that clam scene is where it really started to kind of lose me, as far as I'm like, this feels like it's just weird for weird's sake, as opposed to anything else. Like it feels like it's just the more it got into like what was actually going on, the more undercooked it kind of started to feel. I feel like John Malkovich put a lot of effort into his performance and who his character was, but there wasn't anywhere nearly as much thought as to, like, I don't know, just everything that the actual group are doing is not that interesting. And I think a big part of my problem is once we get towards the end and we get into the third act, is that I'm like, wait, this was the plan all along? This is a lot. Like, I mean, there's a bit more to it they revealed by the very, very end, but like, it just feels like it seemed like there was going to be more of an escalation to something, and instead it felt like it was just quickly dealt with a bunch of stuff, and it was like, well, we're just kind of like, we're done already with that after all the build up. I don't know. It feels like it kind of, it's pacing and momentum. If you even think it has decent pacing momentum, and I think it is debatable, but if you are kind of into at least the build up of like, oh, the tension of like the main character starting to get uneasy because she's like suspecting things and no one's kind of believing her or whatever, if you're kind of getting into that, I think the actual like turning point later in the movie where things kind of progress, they progress almost like too many plot beats ahead too quickly, to the point where it just kind of feels like, oh, we've already like went way past that. And it feels like we kind of like just didn't do enough with what we were building up to, I guess. But anyway, we'll get into spoilers. Let's just get into spoilers for Opus. You have been warned, everyone. We'll get into it. So yeah, movie opens with opening titles of just like one of these songs playing, and it's the idea is that everyone's so entranced with the music that they're just dancing in this darkness. But we're interested in our main character, who works at a publisher. She's told she does a good job by her boss, but isn't given the writing job that she suggests is given to a senior writer who's meant to be very good. We see her go on a lunch date with her friend who's into her, but she's not wanting anything romantic. I think this is the guy that was in Last of Us Season 2, I want to say. I think I recognized him. But this is just mainly to set up her ambition that she wants to be taken seriously as a writer. She wants to eventually, get articles, get enough cred that she can just write whatever she wants, maybe some books, and that's kind of what her goal is. Pardon me. I'm dying, Tim. Take over. She's mid. She has mid opinions. Get to that bit.
Yeah. So one of like the big things that happens is John Malkovich's character. I forget what his name was, Moretti or something like that.
Moretti, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, people start getting word that he's releasing a new album, and they do it in this really weird way where it's not him that does the announcement. It's like Tony Hale, who like I wasn't sure if he's supposed to be like his manager or like a publicist or something.
Maybe.
I guess. But yeah, he gives this like really pretentious like announcement video, and I don't know, they lost me pretty quickly, like because this scene where he and
we should probably point out that it's been 27 years that he's been kind of in hiding, right. So it's kind of a big deal. To the point where the last time they announced an album, he did a video message to the publicist to announce it, but he did it on VHS. He sent VHS tapes to like the news outlets, whereas now it's just a YouTube video that they post because it's 2025.
Yeah, but I was like fairly like turned off by this because it was just so pretentious, and I'm sure that's what they're getting at. But he's like just going on and on about like, oh, like this beautiful musician who's these great works is finally deigning to give us his presence once again and fill our souls with blah blah blah. And I was just like, oh man, get over yourself. Like you're not even like the actual artist, and like it's so annoying. Which I mean, to be fair, it's probably supposed to be like, you're supposed to be
Oh,
like, oh,
yeah. Like this
yeah.
is supposed to be super pretentious. Like it's like
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get what you're saying though, is that they maybe went so comically over the top with it that it's just too. Like if it was just like a hint of this, and it felt like okay, they're giving us the idea of this guy's an egotistical narcissist maniac. That's one thing, but it's almost like parody levels of like what this stuff is.
And to be fair, maybe that some of that might just be like, it might be hard to look at Tony Hale and not like, think of like Arrested Development or something. Like, it's just like, I think he's a good actor, but he's just naturally kind of like goofy and funny. So I don't know if that's really helping. But I don't know. I guess it's like a little bit of a Willy Wonka thing because it's like, only a certain number of people get these like special invites to go to his like compound to, I guess, hear the record before it's released. Or whatever.
So it's like her boss who works at this outlet. I mean, I don't know if they ever even say if it's like a magazine or like a newspaper or whatever. But
sorry. Another like weird thing is that just reminded me is like at first I didn't really know like what exact like time period we're supposed to be in, just because I was like, first of all, I mean like maybe if you're really into music you still buy like whatever like Rolling Stone or whatever music magazines there are, but it just like it seemed like they're treating like their publication as, I don't know, like being kind of big and newsworthy. I'm just like, oh, do people really still care that much about magazines?
Well, I mean, I presume like all outlets like that now, like the articles for the website are just as much of the business as
sure
the magazines themselves are. I assume it's like a mix of things like that. Because there's even a dig at them later where the other woman's like, hey, how's print media treating you there? As if like, you're a dinosaur in a dying business, you fool. So yeah, it's her boss that's invited. There's like some other various like journalists are invited. There's like an influencer who's invited. There's like a critic who had beef with the pop star who's invited that is noted. But more interestingly, a second basket, like a gift basket with an invite, comes to the same office, and it's for our main character, Ariel, which everyone's shocked by because she's like the newbie, she's the rookie. Like, why has she been invited? And that's like, I almost like got annoyed at how much of a backseat that mystery. Like I couldn't believe that Ariel didn't ask why she was picked. Like the first time she met this guy, when they get to the compound and he has a one-on-one chat with her, like, why in the hell wouldn't one of her first questions be like, why me? Like, all these other people are all like, veterans of the industry who have worked, reviewed your stuff in the past and whatnot. Why did you pick me out of all the lowly like rookies that you could have picked? She never asked the question. Like, the mystery's kind of there and there is a reason for it at the very end. But, like, why wouldn't she be asking that?
That's very true, yeah.
Baffling to me. But yeah, so they quickly, there's a private plane, there's a bus, because the thing's in the middle of nowhere, so they have to drive for like 4 hours from the airport to get to this compound in the middle of whatever state they're in. Iowa, something like Oregon, maybe. I don't know. Remember. one of the shitty states, right? So, I shouldn't say shitty. One of the boring states. There's shittier states, like Florida exists. Anyway, so yeah, they're made to give over their phones, no laptops. Everything will be returned at the end of the trip because you have to focus on the music, you have to focus on the experience. But there's clearly all these cult members and all the rest of it, and it's like, okay, they're taken to dinner. John Malkovich makes his first big appearance. There's like a guy that greets them who's a little bit weird and intense that she kind of notes down about. Because the character thing early on is that she is like, hey, what's her game plan for this weekend? And her boss is like, I'm glad you brought it up. Your job is to take notes, and I will read those notes at the end of the weekend and use any of it that I want, because I'm obviously the one that's going to be writing the review because I'm the boss. And so she feels like she's put down by the end. So okay, so that's the setup. They're all here. Juliette Lewis, for example, is like a TV presenter, host, sort of character, and so that's like, so they're all in the media in some way, but in different forms. So there's like maybe 6 of them in total, give or take. I'm sure we'll bring some of them up later.
Yeah, there's like a paparazzi.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the older lady?
Yeah.
It's a paparazzi. Yeah, that sounds right. And the influencer's the Asian lady named Emily. And then like I think the guy that had beef with them was named Bill, I want to say. So that like sets up like your group of characters, and it's a little bit weird. Honestly, maybe the most horrific thing in the movie, from like oh, this is creepy and I'd be very uncomfortable by this, is that when they go to have dinner on that first day, the first thing they do for dinner is they have this big bread bun and for the two long tables where all the people are sitting, and they say, hey, take a bite and pass it across the table, and then it goes down the table. So it's obviously, okay, the first few people just obviously bite different sides of this because it's kind of disgusting biting something that other people are biting, you know. Sure, maybe you do that with your spouse, but like an entire table full of people, most of whom are strangers, no. And when it gets to our main character, Ariel, and it's just like the middle bit of so there's no crust left, and it's just like a chunk of bread, right? And you can it's like a close-up of it, and it's kind of wet, like other people's saliva's on it. It's like maybe the most disturbing thing in the whole movie, the idea that someone would want me to bite into this thing. I'm like, go and F yourselves. There is not a chance in hell I would bite that.
Yeah, I mean, I have two kids, so that doesn't faze me at all. The amount of like you know, weird wet stuff that they like shove in your mouth is just like,
oh no, I can't roll
with it.
Oh no. I like, seriously, I probably would give them more out of trouble for trying to do that to me than just to, like, they could try and set the house on fire and I'd be lenient, but they try and put something weird in my mouth and they're getting smacked. All right.
I mean, I mean, I'm just talking about like food,
sure.
like, you know, but yeah.
Look, this is a bit of a thing I have. I'm a little bit fussy about stuff in the mouth. Okay, like I'm a bit.
That's totally fair.
You know, yeah. OCD with it. Okay.
No, that's fair. I mean, I don't like it, but sometimes you're just like, you know, it's the end of dinner and it's just like, oh, whatever. You just stole the food off my plate and now you're giving it back to me. Like, I'm just too tired to, you know, get something else. So fine, whatever.
Oh, the old school draconian father would come out in me in that situation, Tim. That's the stuff of nightmares. No, I like, so I mean, this is whatever. It's weird, and then they have like a dinner, and you know, she gets to talking to the greeter guy, who, you know, it kind of reveals they have a bit of a religion here. His name is Jarg, or maybe it was Yarg, maybe it was pronounced like a Y. I don't know, but. He like talks about how they have this religion called Levels, and they, you know, he was like basically just contacted out the blue when he's a music teacher one day to come here, and he just came here with like not without even telling his job, and now he lives here and works here for John Malkovich, and that's like his whole thing, and that gets her mind going and makes her want to ask other people how they ended up here, and the stories all seem to be similar, which is just one day out the blue they got a phone call and Mr. Popstar was like, hey, come work for me. We've got a purpose here. We've got a cult. Come and, you know, whatever. So, yeah. I mean, I don't want to go
shuck oysters with us.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to the oysters. I mean, I don't actually want to go through every single, like, scene. I mean, obviously there's, like, standout scenes where John Malkovich is especially weird. In fact, I think before the dinner is when he just stands up and, like, talks to everyone. And he basically just tells this really long joke about how once Chuck Norris and Muhammad Ali came to see him and started like competing with each other because they're both alpha males about who could split a mosquito in half. And apparently there was like 8 mosquitoes in this room they were in because they kept having more mosquitoes to like split in half with either chops or punchies or whatever. Like, I mean, I think by the end of this speech I was like, okay, that wasn't very funny, but everyone's laughing. I think that's kind of the point. But at the start of the speech, I was like, this is really weird. He's talking about Chuck Norris, and I'm kind of into that. But it kind of lost me by the end. I don't know. I don't know how I felt ultimately, but...
Yeah, I mean, it is a good thing that there is such a solid cast in this because, yeah, I mean, I wasn't super into it, but, I mean, if you had someone that wasn't as charismatic or engaging as John Malkovich, like, it would just be, you know, just a completely boring. At least even when he's just like talking or something, he has a presence that you like to see on screen. So
yeah, he definitely does. Like, I think he has presence. I think they all get like a private like concierge who's going to like follow them around, and it's like, okay, they're saying it's to like deal with any needs they have, but obviously you're thinking as an audience member, oh, this is to like spy on them and make sure they don't go anywhere they're not supposed to, and so on. So Amber Midthunder's the character who's like tasked with following Ariel and that's probably the first time it gets like horror movie-esque, is when she's alone in her room that night and she hears like a pop and it's like, what's that noise? And she goes to like the peephole and it's just Midthunder's like sitting out there blowing bubble gum, but she's like staring right at the door, all kind of menacing. That was kind of the first time where I'm like, okay, it's starting to feel like a horror movie now. Like, I knew it was going to be eventually, but like up until that point, it was just kind of like, okay, this is just kind of like quirky and art housey or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'd say it felt art housey in terms of what it was trying to do, but it didn't. But not in style. Like the style wasn't there to feel art house. It was like an art house kind of premise. So. It's just, I think the other things I want to talk about quickly before we just talk about like what the main character goes through is just the other big John Malkovich scenes that are kind of weird. There's a small one later on where he comes out at the dinner table crying, but it turns into just a bit where he's like saying, "Oh, they're crying. The audience is crying for me," and then everyone starts clapping for him because they love him. Probably the big, most eccentric bit he has is when he's like singing a song for them and he sits them in like a circle. And he's got them all dressed up, so the ladies are all undressed. He's the one guy's in a suit, because by this point one guy's already dead and they don't know about it yet, but we'll get to that. And he's in this ridiculous shiny Daft Punk-esque kind of outfit. Like I felt like the vibe they were going for with his music to a point, and like the way he dresses was kind of Elton John at times, but then this felt really Daft Punk with the way he looked. But he sort of dances around them singing. He's miming to his music. He's not singing it live. But he's walking around singing to it, but he's sort of dancing with each of them individually, and he's doing like really suggestive stuff. Like at one point he bends the influencer over and sort of pretends that he's
pop, like
for the audio listeners, I'm making a motion with my hands to suggest thirsting, just in case anyone's look.
He's popping his star, let's say.
He's popping her star.
Her star, that's
yes.
right.
There you go. And he even kisses the older lady at one point, and it's all very provocative and suggestive, until the influencer starts coughing up, which ends the scene, and they take her away to like their medical infirmary or whatever. But I just wanted to mention those because those are the big eccentric scenes. I think everything else kind of like just follows the main character and like what she's going through and the weirdness of like some of the stuff she sees. Like for example, before that scene, she's like given this personal like woman who comes from the cult who's going to like help pick out a dress, like make her hair look good, all that, and then just casually after they've done most of this says, "Oh, Ariel, how is your lady garden?" And she's like, "What's that now?" He's like, "Your vagina, dear. How have you been keeping?" And she pulls out a clipper and she's like ready to clip. And she's like, "It's been away. Why are we? What are we talking about here?" And she's like, "Oh, like, Moretti, has a very particular taste. He expects everyone to have hair, to be completely unleashed, but he doesn't actually want it to be too wild either. He wants it to be, neatly trimmed. That includes both men and women." And this is where she just very quietly goes, "Is he expecting to see my lady garden?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sure he isn't, but that's not the point." I'm like, well, so yeah, super eccentric, and that's one of those things where I enjoyed the exchange because it was weird and it was kind of funny, right? For being weird, but at the same time, after it was over, I stopped and thought about it and went, that feels like it was just for the purpose of being weird, to like be a weird scene, and I don't think it really plays into like anything really else. Like it felt like, much like some of the other weird things they have them do, it feels like they just picked a bunch of random things out of a hat, which I guess some cults feel like that, so maybe that's the point, but it didn't really feel like they like, I don't know, again, the cohesiveness never came together with all these different weird things to me.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't really know how it like plays into his philosophy or what he's trying to do. Yeah, it just feels like they just needed a certain amount of like weird cult shit to throw in there.
Yeah, I mean, Midthunder like follows her on her morning jog and just jogs behind her, and like they do like a little thing where she starts to jog and then stops because she realizes, oh, you're jogging too, and then she goes, and then Midthunder keeps jogging, and yeah, so that's kind of like, hey, she's not letting you out of her sight. This is about keeping an eye on you. Yeah. Just generally speaking, she feels weirder and weird, especially after the other woman gets sick at the song. And like they keep saying, oh, that first guy Bill's going to, because Bill seemingly was just killed like the first night where he's getting a massage and all of a sudden there's people around him and we don't really see what they do. We just hear him start to scream. There's not like much to it, but it's like, hey, seems like he's dead. So and they're just kind of stalling by saying, oh, he chose to go for a spa session rather than come to this lunch, so he's not here right now. And so that's kind of what I was getting at when I was saying it feels like, okay, have they got like individual unique plans for each person? Because we know we had beef with him, so like is the influencer getting sick, and like and later on when we see her again, because she's not quite dead yet, we see that her tongue's swollen and like her eyes are swollen, like she's like she's having like an extreme allergic reaction to something, but it's clearly an intentional drugging of some kind that they've done. And I'm like, well, is it because she's an influencer, she talks too much, she's vain, so the punishment's like, at least on like the crazy man's head, like is fitting the crime of like who she is, kind of thing. But
and you're kind of underselling it too, because like, I mean, that's all fine and whatever, but the really weird thing is that she was like sewn into a beanbag.
Yeah, she has to rip her way out of a beanbag that Ariel's sitting on. And the scene before this is where Ariel gets really weirded out because she's been snooping around by this point. She went snooping and found some stuff. She demanded to leave, and John Malkovich is very nice and says, oh, like as soon as the coach gets back, we'll send you out on it. We'll have the plane ready. It's back in 40 minutes. You may as well come and enjoy the puppet show that we've got planned that the children are doing. And then the children's like, please, I wanted you to see my puppet show. And she sits in a beanbag, and then that beanbag starts to move, and she's like, what the hell? And then she breaks out. And this is where I got kind of like just weirdly disappointed and felt like an anticlimax to me, is that they kind of just kill everyone else in the scene here, like very quickly.
And like just pretty boring ways. Like it's basically just like stabbing, like her boss gets stabbed. Bianca, the older lady, gets stabbed. They don't kill Juliette Lewis yet. I mean, Juliette Lewis does get like dragged so hard by her hair that her scalp starts to rip a little bit, and that I was oh, maybe we are getting to some. I thought that was maybe a hint we were getting to some like grisly stuff, but it never really went anywhere else after that. That was kind of the peak of the grisliness. Yeah, I was already like kind of phasing out of the movie because it just wasn't really doing much interesting to me, and then it just didn't really help that I didn't find any of the like deaths or gore or anything. Like it's not horrible, but yeah, like there's a lot that you don't see, and then I don't know, like when you do see the stuff, it's just like nothing like super interesting. Like I never really felt like pulled in, like oh well, I'm not enjoying the story, but man, that was like a really cool effed up scene or whatever. Like or that like death or that what they did to that person like really made me perk up and go like whoa.
I mean, there's a shock arrow through the shoulder at one point where like it's when Ariel's talking to her boss a little bit before this. This is before she really gets snoopy about things, where she's like, don't you think this is a bit weird? I mean, can we just call this? Because this is the first time in the movie where someone just says, this is a cult. And he's like, yeah, of course it's a cult. And it's when he's talking about this where all of a sudden he gets an arrow through the shoulder. And it turns out to be a kid who was doing archery, because I've got a bunch of kids here. And they say it's an accident, but it seems very timely. Like the second he's starting to like agree with her in some stuff, like all of a sudden like something stops it and interrupts. But I think what felt weird to me is that we get the whole scene where she like demands to leave, she feels unsafe, and like they're all nice about it. And then immediately the very next scene is where, oh no, this is where we're going to reveal everything anyway, and we're just going to kill everyone. Especially since with killing Bill first and then like lying about it and no one knows that he's dead, and then making the other woman sick, the influencer, it felt like, oh, is it going to be like a 1-by-1 almost slasher movie-esque thing where, Ariel's going to realize near the end, oh no, I'm on my own. You know, like I'm truly on my own now. This sucks. But instead, you know, like I said, like they just sort of kill like most of the rest of the innocent characters, and that's kind of it. We get a bit of a chase sequence because she jumps out the window and runs. I mean, Malkovich makes a whole speech about why his album's called Caesar's Request. So he tells a story about pirates and about how, like even when he was kidnapped and they thought he was just a normal dude, they didn't realize they had like Caesar. They just asked for a normal amount, and Caesar demanded that they ask for more ransom money. And then he came back and crucified all the pirates once he get back to his people because he's Caesar. And his whole point of that story is like, even when we're at the mercy of peasants, royalty is still royalty, or something like that. Because the whole thing, like his philosophy, as he explains it, is that, you know, like some people just naturally become gods for a moment when they create something. You know, when he wrote a song that was like special, he became a god while he was writing that song, and it went away. And that's kind of like, you know, what he's getting into. But like, I don't know. I just, none of it felt like it was forming together to me into a you know, like something that had a through line where I felt like almost like different random ideas of how an egotistical maniac sees himself.
Yeah, it's a lot more rambly than like a clear, thought out like vision or something that he has. Like, I don't know, and again, it's just like, I don't know. It just sounds like the kind of like annoying thing you would hear from like a very like stuck up egotistical person, which again, yeah, that's what they're going for. But like, it just kind of like turned me off from it. Like, it's just going like, all right, man, whatever. Like, I'm just not really feeling this rant or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, and Ariel, like, there's the night before, she tries to tell everyone else something's weird here, that something's not right, and they're all just kind of drunk and just sort of laugh at her and say, what's going on with her? Like, none of them believe her. And I'm just like, it felt like, again, that was maybe going to lead to something. The fact that they all just kind of like find out together in this like puppet show scene just felt like such a weird, like, oh, I guess we're here at this point already, as opposed to, oh, we've naturally built up to something. Which is not to say that it felt rushed, because it's not like it was super quick paced before that, but given where it was in terms of the character journey, it felt like a weird rush to get to that point. Then she just has a chase sequence where Midthunder chases her into like a house. There's a nice little shot here when she's hiding in the bathroom with like a screwdriver as a stabbing weapon. Midthunder tries to get in the locked bathroom door and gives up, but then you see her kind of appear behind the frosted glass window. And like she comes in through the window, and she's actually like climbed up like I don't know what you call it, the lattice that's on the side of the house, and she's like pulling her out through the window. I thought that was an okay like directed moment. Like I wasn't really caring about things going on at that point, but like I thought, like just from a visual perspective, it was a neat like concept for a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, then she gets knocked out. It does that thing where the camera kind of like goes behind a closed door and you can't see the fight that's happening. And I was like worrying that if Ariel wins this fight and comes out victorious, I'm going to call bullshit, because this movie's not sold her as like someone who can fight. So if she's going to win a fight, we have to see it. We have to see how she survives. But it wasn't her. Midthunder does win, and they have been selling her as kind of a badass who's like dangerous. You know, she's been kicking doors down. She's been chasing people. You know, she's had a menacing quality about her, so it's okay to not see how she wins, because she's the more likely person to win. So that makes sense. But anyway, she wakes up and she's tied to a chair with Juliette Lewis, and yeah, we're straight in cult mode. Like Malkovich is making a speech, everyone's drinking champagne. Clearly, the implication here, and it's what Ariel thinks, is that this is probably like a mass suicide type thing, and they're all drinking the Kool-Aid, as it were. But the fashion lady who talked to her earlier undoes her restraints so she can get away, and she kicks over like the little bonfire thing, and it sets Malkovich on fire. She runs, she gets like the little like ATV, and she drives, and she gets over the barbed wire fence. She steals like a super fan's car, because they established earlier there's like super fans who are around the fence like cheering on with signs saying, hey, come back Moretti, we want more of your music, and all that. And this all happens like super quick. It's not a good chase. It's not particularly exciting. It felt underwhelming, and I knew I was getting towards the end of the movie, so I was expecting Midthunder to, like, you know, get over the fence and give her like a big chase or something, and it never quite happened. And instead, the movie fades to black, and it cuts to 2 years later. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing something else to wrap the movie up. It's not just about her getting away. The movie's going to do something beyond that. And it's like, okay. But that doesn't change the fact that everything in the sort of the horror climax of like her waking up and running away, like, I mean, for a start, I immediately had the idea that like Malkovich wanted her to escape. Like that, this is all like a plan to let her go, because we still haven't answered why she was picked. And the only reason why I can think why she would be picked is because they want her to be the survivor to tell the story of what happened here, because he seems like the sort of guy who would want what's happened here to become an infamous thing, because he's that type of dude. Like, you know, that felt fairly obvious to me. The reveal that 2 years later she's written a book about this experience and she finally goes to see him at prison. He finally wants to see her, and it turns out that he wanted her to write this book because he wanted to spread the idea of his religion. And we see that these cult members aren't all dead. They've all just like spread around. They've got normal jobs everywhere. Amber Midthunder's like a barber. She's like shaving a man. And the creepy guy who welcomed her, he's working at like an ice cream place or something. Yeah, like they're all spread out, and they're all spreading the idea of the levels and stuff. And the movie goes so far here where in this like long scene where they're in the prison like visiting room, the movie's aspect ratio gradually changes over the course of the scene. Did you notice this, Tim?
No, I didn't.
You did not notice the movie changed aspect ratio for the last like 3 or 4 minutes?
No, I mean, again, I was like pretty checked out.
Looking at the phone, I was checking.
Well, I was literally watching the movie on my phone, so it might be a little harder to notice.
No, because the sad part is they're doing something here. This idea that at least on a TV, because it's going from like the wider ratio to so it's getting taller till it's like full screen on a widescreen TV, basically. It feels like it's getting bigger, and the idea is that she's realizing that this whole thing's been like a play to trick her into doing this. Like, this is what they wanted the whole time. Like, I've seen that done better. I'd highly recommend the Amazon show Homecoming. Just there's technically a second season, but you can ignore the second season. The first season's like a complete story by Sam Esmail, who did Mr. Robot, and that does some really cool stuff with aspect ratios where it does something interesting with it. This felt like a kind of weaker version of that, but yeah, honestly, this whole revelation, him like sitting there and mouthing thank you at her because she's helped spread the word, and you know, he picked her because, you know, he liked her writing and because she hadn't been like corrupted by success or by, you know, all these things that all these other media people had been at that point because she was fresh. I mean, honestly, this like meeting, like, it's supposed to be this like pivotal, like, oh, this is where the villain's revealed what he's done the whole time, and it's supposed to be this exciting thing. And I felt nothing for it. I felt nothing for anything he said here. It just felt like, oh, we had a story about a cult who's going to try and infect more of the country with their cult ways and spread their ideas. But it just didn't like feel like a big reveal to me. It didn't feel exciting. It didn't feel creepy or serious. I don't know. It landed with a thud.
I felt pretty underwhelmed myself. Again, maybe I was just bored and like wasn't like paying close enough attention, but I still never really got like a good grasp on what his ideology is. So when he's talking about like, oh, my ideas are spreading, I'm like, well, what are your ideas? Just that like you're really great, you know? I mean, like
he goes on about how using our left brain, it hasn't worked. There's still wars. Yeah. There's still all these bad things. So the right brain is going to take over, and we're going to use that instead. And blah blah blah. Like, honestly, like, by the end, I'm like, I really don't know exactly what you're really trying to say. Like, I get the movie trying to say something about celebrity and like always like fans becoming a cult almost for the celebrity and the pop star or whoever. And the idea that he can influence them to there's ideas there. You could totally do something with that, but I just don't think this movie hits it, and it doesn't even get close to hitting it.
Yeah, like it's also hard to think that, like, she's writing like a true crime book about this dangerous experience she had. She's not writing like a religious text, so even if she does get into like some of the stuff he said in it, like it's hard to believe that tons of people are going to be like picking up the book and going. I mean, I guess a lot of people probably pick it up because he's like a celebrity and stuff, but yeah, it seems like people will be more like, oh, like the true crime aspect is crazy, instead of being like, oh, he has a lot of good points.
Well, I think the idea is that a lot of his super fans are going to read it and like side with him because they already love him, and the same, and that kind of blends into the idea of like some people falling in love with serial killers and obsessing over Bundy and Manson and all the rest of it. So I think this, because he even says at one point, like, yeah, if you kill people in a way that's like so scandalous, they'll never stop talking about it because it's too exciting or interesting, and that's kind of what his whole thing was. Because we get like a quick sort of scene, like a flashback to when she led the police back to the compound, and he's just waiting at a piano, playing piano, as like the murder victims are all just like lined up in body bags in front of the piano. And again, it felt one of those moments where I'm like, this is like really try hard to me, and I just don't think it's like clicking. It's not working for me because it's trying so hard to be eccentric, and it's just, I'm just not feeling it. It's feeling phony, and it's a first time director, so maybe that's part of this. Maybe this is like a first time writer director who maybe will have learned some mistakes from this or what. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, ultimately, it's not like the worst thing in the world. Like, but yeah, maybe it just could have used like another pass at the script, or like maybe another bit more like engaging director or something. Like, yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah, maybe he'll do some other stuff and a bit more interesting, but it just fell a little flat with me. Yeah, which is a shame, because again, there's little things here and there. There's some ideas. There's like a really great cast that you could work with. So it's not like a complete dud.
Well,
it's
I mean,
just
before we get to wrap it up too much, the final moment we have to talk about, because I think that's like the sign to me that this movie wanted to feel like it had something to say, like, because it ends on like this cliffhanger feels like a weird word, but she because she's kind of famous now for surviving this, and she wrote a book about the whole incident, and she's doing radio interviews and stuff. That's what we see when we first skip ahead 2 years. The end of the movie is her going for a TV interview after she's had this meeting with Malkovich, and he's like freaked her out because she's like realized she's helped spread his ideas and all that. And she goes out of this TV show, she sits down, and she notices that the woman is wearing a couple of pearls on her necklace. And we didn't really explain this, actually. We kind of glossed over. We mentioned the clams, but basically in the middle of the movie, when she's asking Malkovich, oh, what does your religion do? Like, Catholics do this, Muslims do that. What does your religion do? And he's like, well, we do one thing. And he takes her to this tent where one of the members is just like aggressively with a knife opening clam after clam looking for pearls. And this is something they do. And like when she asks, like, what's the purpose of this afterwards, he's just like, he doesn't really have a good answer. He's just like, he's a mumbo jumbo about the meaning of a pearl amongst all, the fact that not everything's equals, the balance, blah 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 blah. He talks, again, it just sounds like random mumbo jumbo for the most part. But it's like the guy accidentally stabs himself in the hand. Everyone in the cult has scars in their hands because they're all doing this, and they're all accidentally cutting themselves with the knife that they're trying to open the clams with. So the end of the movie, when she sees these pearls on her necklace, she doesn't know for sure that this woman is like a follower of the Levels religion, but it's making her question it. She's like scared that she could be. And then this woman says, she asks the question of like, what's it like to have survived this and written this book and like be this successful? And she just doesn't really have, like, she just kind of hesitates and like doesn't know what to say, and she looks kind of ashamed, and it cuts to credits like before she says like her answer. And it feels like it's making like a point of like, oh, she was so desperate to be successful at the start of the movie and like have the credibility to be famous and write whatever she wants, and now she technically has that, but it's come at this cost. And like she can't, like she feels so many different things about like how she got here, and like the regret and shame and whatever. And it felt like to me this cut to credits was meant to be like a poignant, like, oh, like we're making our point here at the end, like, oh, it's all come full circle, and like her successes came at this cost, and you can't be successful without like sacrifices and without all these things, and you know, this monster like gave her this success on a silver platter basically, and blah 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 blah, and she has to wrestle with that, and it just kind of felt like it cut to the credits, and I just kind of sat there being like, I feel like you were trying to like, you know, have your moment, like have your cut to black. It's actually cut to yellow in this case. They have yellow background for the credits in this movie, but you wanted your cut to black moment where the audience like just gets that final point. And you know, lots of movies do it. Lots of movies cut to black on a poignant thing where it feels like the end of the character arc, right? Most recently, I can remember Anora having a cut to black on a pivotal moment where it felt like, oh god, that was the best part to cut to black because it feels like it ended the story. This to me just kind of felt like it underlined we've not quite really succeeded in like saying the things that we were maybe trying to say, and it's kind of like just like, yeah, nice try, like this feels like a really mean thing to say. But it feels like I've you know, it feels like you get to the end of the movie and you've watched a movie by someone who thinks they were being smart, but you're sitting there kind of cringing because it wasn't as smart as you thought it was. That's what the ending felt like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess there's ways you can make it work, but I guess you just have to put more effort into, you know, just I don't know, just making like a more like interesting character, or I guess, you know, like a better story to follow or something. Because on paper, like what you're saying, I can see, oh yeah, that's like, you know, the thing that you would do, but it doesn't really matter if like you're not caring about the character or the story at this point. Yeah, it did just feel like they're trying to, you know, really leave you on this like, oh wow moment, but instead I was just like, all right, it's over. Good, I'll just stop it here.
Yeah, it really felt like it was trying to punctuate like the idea of what the movie was, but I just kind of shrugged and went, that movie wanted to be several things, and I don't think it nailed any of them, and it just kind of, I mean, I think underwhelming is the perfect phrase for most of what the movies try to do, because most of it feels underwhelming, which is a shame. Yeah. You know, it's a tough thing to say about a movie, and you know, I like, there was potential. I will say, you know, like this director, like I'm definitely going to be lukewarm with the expectations for whatever he does next. Mark Anthony Green is the director of this one, and writer for the record. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see if they come. I mean, maybe they even do a horror movie next. Maybe they'll do something else and we can ignore it, which would be fine. But yeah. So,
yeah, that's. I mean, I feel bad like with movies like this because it's just like I don't know. I want to have more to say, but at the end of the day, there's just, I don't know, not much there that I really cared about or felt engaged with. It's and again, like I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, I mean, we've certainly watched worse stuff this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a bad movie even. Like I think there's enough good things in it, and like weird things that are at least, you know, like John Malkovich is certainly giving it his all at points, and that's cool. But it just, like, I think there's just enough things that don't work that I can't say it's good or even decent. But I also, you know, I wouldn't be so harsh on it to, like, you know, when we get to ratings, and I don't think I'm going to go going like silly low either. I think it's
right.
You know, I do really think it is middling, but it feels like it should be better than that. So it's kind of a shame.
And I feel like, I don't know, at the start of the year, this was like a movie that, you know, people were talking about, that they were excited about it, which on paper I can see why it would sound pretty cool. Like, oh, like John Malkovich is playing like this crazy reclusive pop star who is working on his magnum opus, and then like invites all these people to come witness it. Like, that sounds like a good plot for a movie, but yeah, just ended up just not being that exciting.
And of course, his opus is actually, killing all these people in this, this book coming out. And of course, his album that he finished for the purpose of this is selling very well because now he's an infamous serial killer. Or, well, not serial killer, it's more of a mass murder deal. Whatever. However they classify him. All right, Tim, what are you rating Opus out of 10?
Yeah, it's weird. I wasn't super fond of the movie, but again, it's not like offensively bad, and there are a few positives there. So, I am gonna go low. It's just a little bit like under, kind of like the halfway point of like, oh, I liked it. It was okay, and like, yeah, I didn't like it, but I don't think I'm gonna go like super low because again, it's just it's not like horrible or it didn't make me angry. It was just more like a little bit boring. But I don't know. I think like a 4 probably seems about right. Yeah, just like kind of a little bit below the average. Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily liked it, but it's not like the worst thing in the world or bad to a degree that I want to shout and rant about or anything. This will be another one of those movies I just probably won't really think about that much after we're done recording.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, I'm going with a 5. It's straight down the middle. I think there's good actors in here, some of whom give fine performances. I think there's the odd moment of weirdness or the odd little moment of like violence or tension that's okay. I think I appreciate what it was trying to do in some respects, but as it went on, I kind of got less interested as the stuff that the cult was doing was just kind of, I just kind of felt weird for weird's sake. I didn't feel like it was coming together, and I don't think I'm ever going to want to watch it again. I think I'm going to happily kind of forget it exists, but I also don't think it's like the worst thing ever. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as Wolfman or Hellboy the Crooked Man, or I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like all these movies we've done recently. I think it's better than those, but it's not good either. It's very much just kind of in that boring middle 5 out of 10 range. So there you go. That is Opus. So what we got planned for next week? Well, we've not actually talked about it, but I'll just decide right now that next week we're doing the Rule of Jenny Penn, because that's what I've got written down for next. So next week we'll have the Rule of Jenny Penn, if all goes to plan. So look forward to that. Of course, you can support the show by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, or you can become a YouTube member. Either way is greatly appreciated, and you get access to even more stream segments, which is basically every week we'll do like a 10 to 20 minute extra little bonus like chat of like a top 5 or something related to the movie we did when we recorded it, and that comes out as a bonus thing. We have bonus episodes as well. We have old back catalogue, and we should have another one of those maybe about by the end of August. And that's just weirder movies, lower budget or usually bad movies, not always, but quirkier movies that maybe like wouldn't get that much of an audience on the main show. Actually, that was in the Even More Scream segment, but we did mention earlier Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. That was one such bonus episode. Recently we did the direct-to-video I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. Stuff like that gets on the bonus episodes for Patreon and YouTube members. So if you want to support everything and get those bonuses, go check it out. There's also bonuses for the other shows we do. Thanks to everyone who supports us already, and to anyone who's considering. But that's the show pretty much. That's been Screams After Midnight. We'll be back next time. We'll see you then. Keep watching scary movies, and goodbye for now.